So in the last video, we made this beautiful widget here. It's customizable with some different fields, all that good stuff. So now we're gonna learn to animate. Well, we're gonna learn the different ways that you can animate, and then at the end, I'll show you the way I animate for all my widgets. Because there are a couple different ways to animate, and some of them are very, very difficult to work with. The one I use, I believe, is the best. It gives the best animations. But here we go. Let's start. So there's also different levels to it. We'll start at the bottom, sort of like the easiest, very basic sort of animation. And that is called CSS Transitions. So let's say we're going to take the green box and we're going to, I don't know, just move it to the right. It's just going to slide to the right. Blue box, actually. All right, so I'm actually going to give it a value. So I'm going to give it a left value. And it doesn't do anything. All right, that's the 0 is the default. But for a CSS transition, so I actually need some help here. By the way, AI, like ChatGPT, this one is Claude. Fantastic. Especially for like CSS, HTML, because that stuff's pretty simple. Even JavaScript. You can ask it, it'll tell you anything. So I would say AI is just a way better Google if you have questions. All right, but anyway, so here we go. We're going to use the transition property. And the property I want to transition is left. And then I think it takes a time. So let's say 2 seconds. And then it takes an ease, I believe. This might be wrong. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave that blank for now. I'll show you what it looks like without it, and then we'll add it in so you can see the difference. Let me just check back here. Okay. Yeah, so the transition takes in the property that you want to animate, and this is the timing. Now, if I click out, you'll see nothing. The transition only works when you change that property. So I have to change the left property. So right now it's set to 0, but let's do, okay, so actually I'm gonna change this real quick, and I'm gonna put left slider equals 400. So what I think should work is the left is gonna start at 0. On widget load, when the widget loads, it's gonna set the left property to 400. And that's gonna trigger the transition property, and it'll take 2 seconds to go from 0 to 400. That was it, there we go. And if we wanna go back in here, let's make it 4 seconds. There you go, twice as slow. And that actually didn't look like linear. So there's different eases that you can do. Let's go back to 2 seconds. So that was linear animation, where it just like goes across the screen at the same rate. Kind of looks very robotic. I would advise against all linear animation. I think it looks terrible. Like, that was nice. It kind of smoothed out and then smoothed in. Let's make it longer. Yeah, that was very nice, smooth animation. I don't use this very often. So the thing I would use it for when I make goal widgets. So for example, let's make this height like 40 pixels. let's turn this off. And okay, so we got the bar, and let's just pretend this is like a donation goal. So let's pretend this is a goal widget. This is a donation goal, and right now it's set to 50%, whatever. So we want every time, let's say we get a donation, the bar will get bigger. It'll move closer to the goal, closer to the goal. And the best way to do that is with the transition. So here, instead of left, I would do width. And then in here, I can do something like box.width. Oh, no, sorry, box.style.width equals, let's say 75%, I guess. And this should be, so the box will start where it started before, and then it'll nicely ease out. There you go. So you can kind of use your imagination that this is a goal widget and you're filling up the bar the more donations you get. So that's what I use that for. But other than that, not so much. Well, okay, so let me tell you some more about this. So like, you're only doing one specific property with these transitions. So like I said, I only use it for one thing. It's very good for that thing, but kind of outside of that, it's I don't find it very useful. The next thing, so I'm gonna delete that actually. And I'm gonna delete this. Alright, so we're back to that. Save it. The next thing is CSS Animation. This is an example of how you would write CSS Animation. I always do it, so if you do CSS Animations, I always do a thing where I come in here. This is a comment. So this is not gonna run as code. That ends the comment. There we go. It just gives me a little barrier, a little break. And then I put my animations down here. Because right now we only have 3. But if you're doing a full widget, your CSS is gonna be hundreds of lines long and it can get crazy. So it's good to kind of break it up. So here we go. Width change. We can call this whatever we want. So let's just say first animation. We can call it whatever we want. We have a from property and a to property. Let's do the blue box. So we start at 50%. And let's do the same like we did last time. We want to go to 75%. So we have that. It doesn't actually do anything yet. We didn't add it. We didn't add it to the box. We have to, to the box we want to move, we have to add this animation property. Okay, so let's go. Let's remember this name, first anim. But we want to do it to the box. Gonna delete the left. Animation. And then we put the name of this animation. First anim. And we give it a time, kind of just like the like the transition we did earlier. And if we just leave it like that, it should be a linear animation that happens one time. Okay, and so it actually snapped back. So it doesn't. The transition animation, you set the value and then it animates to that value. The CSS transition, it's just doing this set animation here. It's not actually changing the value. So you see, it did the animation, but then it snapped back to the original value. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But a thing maybe you noticed is this one is hard to control. So right now it's added to the blue box, but in a real situation, I want to be able to control when it does that animation. Right now, it just does it immediately right away, and then it goes back to the value, so it's pointless. So a trick that you can use is if we make a class. So let's make a class called width anim, and then into that class we put this. So now our animation is sort of contained within a class called width anim, and you'll see when I start, nothing happens. We can add, oh, this one doesn't have a class yet, actually. You are allowed to add multiple classes. So like if, all right, let's leave that. Just for an example, to show you how to add multiple classes. We'll add it to the main container. You just do a space. I already forgot what it was called. Width anim, okay. So if I add width anim, you should see the main container do this little animation right here, 50% to 70%. Let's see. Okay, and it did it. But the thing that I don't like, so when I first started, I used CSS Animations all the time. But the thing is, it's very hard. So you have to, through JavaScript, you have to add the classes. And then once the animation is finished, you have to remove the class if you ever want to do the animation again. So like it gets very complex where you have to, okay, add the class, do the animation. When the class is over, remove the class. So it's a lot to do just one animation, and it's a pain in the ass to remove it, and yeah. But I'm gonna show you how to do it, because it probably is, if you're just starting out, it's probably the best way to do it. Okay, so like I said, you have to add the class name. We're gonna add it to, all right, let's move the box. We'll do it to the box. So we have box.className.add, and then I forget the name again. I think it was width anim. By the way, this is commenting things out in JavaScript. It's just two slashes, two forward slashes. So whatever's in that will be ignored. But now it's on, so it's going to add the width anim, and it's going to animate the green box. No, it's not. If you ever get an error, go right to the console. ClassName.add is not a function. I did the wrong one. I did ClassName.add. It's actually, no. It's actually ClassList.add. There we go. But so the problem is, let me console log this box. And I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna refresh, because this console is getting filled up like crazy. Yeah, like this is what it usually looks like. I don't know where all that other text is coming from. So what did I do? I console logged the blue box. So you can see it. We can go in here and we can look at the properties. It'll even highlight it on the screen if you see that. Like look when boom, shows which is which. Okay, so it has the class. You can see the class is width anim, which is, it's correct. That's what we did in the beginning. We added the class name, but now, like let's say we wanted to do that animation again. You can't add two class names of the same name. I don't even know what would happen actually. But So the thing is, we have to delete the class name after it's done. I don't actually remember how to do it because I haven't done it in so long, but here, let me show you this widget here. This is a widget where you throw stuff at the streamer's webcam. So every time you type boo, pops up, throws it, and you also get to choose where the webcam is. Yeah, anyway, okay, so, but I know this one uses, there's an event listener called Animation End. And what that does is, so these listeners, they're just kind of like, I don't know, they're things that, like, when the event happens, it sends out a little signal. And in this is what happens. You can say what you want to happen when that signal gets thrown out. So, I have my box element, and I'm gonna add the event listener, the animation end. And this is from the old one, so I'll cut that out. And this right here, this is, so sometimes if you don't have this, it could add multiple listeners. And then all of a sudden you have 3 listeners. So this little block of code, it'll fire 3 times and it messes up your program. So this once true, it just basically makes sure that there's only 1 listener at a time in there. All right, so let's just console log, and let's just say animation done. Should see down here, right there. Right when the animation snapped back, when it finished, we got the animation done. But we don't want to know when it's done. We want to remove the class. So let's say box.classList.remove. And then we're going to remove width anim. And then let's console log the box just to make sure, so we can see the class list and see if it actually removed it. So here we go. Okay, animation going. Print, and right there, the class, there's no class. So that's good. That's what we wanted. And that's CSS animation. Just to do one animation and then clear to get ready for the next animation, it's a lot of code. It's a pain in the ass. So if you're just starting, it's probably the best way. But yeah, it isn't the best way to do it. But if you're starting out, it's the best way to do it. And also, the other thing that I don't like about CSS animations is you kind of have to define the animation beforehand. So like this is 50% to 75%. We're using the example of the goal widget. So like let's say someone donates just $1 and it goes to it should go to like 51%. There's a lot you have to do to get that 51% value into this value right here. And yeah, it's very complicated. But I think maybe the easiest to get started with. Like I've said that too many times already. The thing that I use is called GSAP. And it's a JavaScript library or framework, I don't even know exactly what it is, that lets you animate in a different way. It gives you timelines, you get to set everything out, and like it's still using CSS and all that stuff, but it's made specifically for animating, and it makes things so much easier. Now this is kind of advanced. It took me, so I was making widgets for probably 6 to 8 months before I was comfortable even trying this. But let me just show you how I do it and show you what's possible with it. So the great thing about JavaScript is that there's so many libraries. Like this GSAP, this is just one library for animation. I could upload, there's a library for playing sounds. There's a lot, anything you can think of, there's probably a good library for it. And the way you load those libraries is through a CDN. So copy that script tag right there. And then I go in, and I go to the HTML, and it's kind of like in the same way this Google font is being grabbed right here. It's kind of the same thing. Like this script, this GSAP library is being grabbed right there. All right, and then now when I go into JavaScript, I can just start using it, and I can animate however I want. And I have to be honest, I love GSAP. So, a good rule of thumb, so I kind of mentioned this earlier, is a function. You want to make a function. I'm going to call it animate the box. Animate box. Okay, give it the function symbol. All right, now in here, have to do a thing. So it's TL, that's short for timeline. TL equals GSAP.timeline. Okay, and then I can go here and I say, so let's do the same thing. Let's move, I'm gonna move the green box. Just move it, whatever, to the left a little bit. So TL timeline.to. And then in here, I tell it which thing I want to animate. And it will use the same targets, the same way you grab the HTML elements in CSS is the same way we're gonna do it here. So I want the blue box. So I'm gonna say blue box X. I wanna mess with the X, and I wanna push it 400 pixels. And you don't have to use pixels in GSAP, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so 400. And also let's do something else. Let's push it down a little bit. So Y, let's push it down 100. Nah, let's just go a little bit, 60. Okay, and then I can do a duration. Let's say 2 seconds. All right, we'll just leave it at that. So right now, if I come back here, nothing happened because I didn't connect, I never called this function. So down here, I'm gonna call the animate box. There we go. And the thing I like about GSAP is that it changes the value. So like before with the CSS animation, it did the animation, but then it snapped back to the original value, which kind of, you would almost never need that in production. It's very rare where that would be what you want. So this is good. It keeps it right there. Yeah, and there's a lot you can do. So I can also do, I can change the ease. We can do power2.in-out. Yeah, you can see how that was a little different. Let me get, actually, so there's a GSAP ease. Yeah, they have this cool ease visualizer. So something like, I use this one a lot. Or was it bounce? No, not that one. Yeah, I like to use this elastic one. So just copy that, go in here, paste the elastic ease. That's beautiful. So that would be, just to do that, just this little animation right here, I don't even know how you would do it in CSS. So yeah, that alone right there is just, it's So I love GSAP. It's what I use for all my stuff. If you're just beginning, I think start with the transition. Transition is the easiest. It's kind of, you can wrap your head around it. It's not really that difficult to understand. The next step up would be CSS Animations, where you have the class name and then you add the class and then remove the class. And then I think you graduate to GSAP and you can start doing some really cool things. Actually, let me, okay, so I'll show you a little bit more with GSAP. So the timing with CSS Animations is a nightmare, is an absolute nightmare. But with this, all right, so let's say after the blue box, I want to move the image, user image. Okay, so the ID is user image. And I'm gonna delete all this stuff. Let's just make it go. Let's just make it get a little big. So it'll be like 1.4. Duration 1. And actually also let's do, let's push it down a little bit. Alright, so the way this is right now, it's a timeline. So the blue box finishes, and it goes to the next animation. Let's see how that looks. Okay, it was as expected, kind of just one after the other. Once one finishes, the next one goes. But now, I can use different things for the timing of the animation. So this little symbol here, it plays this animation at the same time as this one. So it basically takes it one back in the timeline. So both of these animations will play at the same time now. Okay. I could also push this one back. So let's say I want a 3-second gap between the animations. Good old refresh. Okay, so there. So the green box went, waited 3 seconds, and then the turtle. Yeah, so maybe you can see why I love GSAP. It's so easy to just have a list of animations, mess with the timing. Yeah, I love it. In the next video, we're gonna do events. So we're gonna start listening for follows, alerts, subs, chat messages, all that stuff. See you there.